Hello, everyone. I'm Isabella, Program Director of DFA Awards from Hong Kong Design Center. Thank you for joining the DFA Awards Design Dialogue by Hong Kong Design Center. DFA Awards recognize designers and projects that meaningfully address critical issues and contribute to the betterment of society in Asia and beyond. Every year, DFA Awards organize a series of events in various cities in Asia. We wish to provide a platform for designers from worldwide to share their insights and design thinking with us. In the past few weeks, we have conducted a few
Astrid, can you come here a minute?
Yeah. We conducted a few dialogues with past winners from DFA Awards. Here comes to the fourth one today, and we have invited speakers from Southeast Asia. Before we start, let me introduce the background of the DFA Awards. Hong Kong Design Center is a non-governmental organization and is a strategic partner of the HKS Hong Kong SAR government in establishing Hong Kong as an international center of design excellence in Asia. This year is the 20th anniversary of Hong Kong Design Center, and our public mission is to promote wider and strategic use of design and design thinking to create business value and improve societal well-being through different programs as listed on the screen. Since 2003, Hong Kong Design Center has launched the DFA Awards to underpin the role of designers in society and to celebrate design leadership and exemplary designs and projects with commercial success and impact in Asia, as well as to recognize the rising force of emerging Hong Kong designers. The 5 awards under DFA Awards include DFA Lifetime Achievement Award, DFA Design Leadership Award, DFA World's Outstanding Chinese Designer, DFA Design for Asia Awards, and the DFA Hong Kong Young Design Talent Award. One of the focuses is the DFA Design for Asia Awards, which recognize excellence global entries. The guest speakers today are the winners of the award. Before we start, let us share a video to introduce DFA Design for Asia Award with you. As mentioned in the video, DFA Design for Asia Awards 2020 is now open call for entry. The submission deadline is 30th of June, 5 p.m. this month. If you haven't submitted your projects, please grab the chance. Now we shall start the dialogue session. Creativity and innovation have proven to be remedy for improving our quality of life. Good design plays a vital role towards our everyday life and influences our perception and values. During the dialogue, today with the theme, Design Redefines Values, the 2 speakers from Singapore will share their design philosophy, as well as the interrelationship between design, social values, and responsibility. Afterwards, there will be a session of panel discussion and Q&A. If you have any questions to our speakers, please leave a message in Zoom webinar Q&A or YouTube chat box. Now let me introduce today's speakers and moderator. First, welcome Christophe GAUBERT. He is the Director of Design Incubation Center, National University of Singapore. Design Incubation Center got 2 awards in DFA Design for Asia Awards 2021, including the project SEAH and Aline. Next, we are happy to have Colin with us. Colin is the founder of design company, Ministry of Design. The project Citi Wealth Center won the Gold Award in DFA Design for Asia Awards 2021. Lastly, we are grateful to have Mark Dytham with us as the moderator. He is the co-founder of Klein Dytham Architecture. Mark is also one of our judges in the DFA Awards 2021. Without delay, let me pass the floor to Mark. Thank you, Mark. And Mark, please unmute your mic. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. And thank you for inviting me to be the moderator today of this session. It's great to be back with some old friends. I know Colin for over 10 years, I think. So it's really nice to be back with familiar faces. I'm based in Tokyo right now, so we're an hour ahead, or a couple of hours ahead of everybody else. And I run an architectural office here with Astrid Klein called Klein Dytham Architecture. We've been in Japan for over 30 years now. And we have a small practice, 25 people. But we've been lucky enough to win the Design for Asia Grand Prize 3 times. And here are the trophies. I've lined them up. We won in 2016, 2017, and 2012. We also got a silver last year for one of our projects. So we're big fans of the DFA, and I just want to say you do a fantastic job in promoting design in Asia. It's always so professionally run, and the books and all the graphics and the whole package is designed impeccably. So congratulations. And it's really exciting to be here in Asia and working with so many, or competing with so many fantastic designers. Yeah, what else can I say? We really do like the Asian to be here in Asia. I think everybody's so forward thinking and so positive. Everything seems possible. And we love being in Japan too. I think there's always an acceptance of newness, and everybody's always up for a challenge. And there's also that design aesthetic which comes through, whether you're in Japan or Korea, Singapore or Hong Kong. There's something specifically Asian that always comes through. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first speaker, as it were, and it's Professor Christophe GAUBERT, and he's going to make a short presentation about his project. And then he's going to hand over to Colin, and we'll go from there. So without further ado, over to you, Christophe.
Yeah, thank you, Mark, and thank you, Isabella, for the invitation. Let me have a few words about the Design Incubation Center. It's actually the DIC, in a short name, is what we can call a public design studio. And here we are in a very specific context in Singapore, where there is no manufacturing industry. So our values are maybe a bit different than commercial studios. We focus on cultural innovation because we have here a very interesting mix of culture. We work on social innovation, which is something very developed in Singapore. And of course, all the questions linked to environment. And I must say that Singapore is a very interesting lab for all of this. And actually, those 3 values are very interlaced for me, because they are really questioning the link between past, present, and future. When I'm talking about culture, it's, for example, understanding the Chinese roots of Singapore and how to transmit those values to the young generation. Here we have a project that we have incubated that explains the origin of feng shui, which is originally coming from the harmony with nature, with a lot of beliefs that were translated into auspicious creatures. It's coming from very far. So the student, Xuxia, tried to give a contemporary shape to them by also explaining where they are coming from, and the IC helped to develop and to produce in Taiwan in porcelain and pure gold. For example, you maybe recognize 𝐄𝐮 that is made from different animals like fish, deer, and lion. This one comes from a Chinese legend linking this creature with the birth of Confucius. So 𝐄𝐮 is thought to bring along fertility, longevity, and prosperity. The culture is also something we usually perceive through food every day. And this student worked to give a shape to the taste, to the different tastes that are structural of the traditional Chinese cuisine and also medicine by extension. But something that the young generation and also the foreign people like me don't really know. So our student, Cheryl, used generative design to literally translate the parameters of taste, like salty, sweet, sour, spicy, into three-dimensional texture that will talk about the dish. And here, as an example, we have a bakute bowl for people who like Chinese food. And DSC helped to produce this in limited edition. On social side, we incubate projects like this program for caregivers that is made to help the persons to better understand this new responsibility when they suddenly have to take charge of a close one, like a parent with Alzheimer, for example. And it's something we developed in collaboration with the National Council of Social Service of Singapore, who is currently testing the program with the goal to release it soon. So let's say that this is very service-oriented, but technology can also be a very important vector of social design, like the Rewind project of 𝐿𝐸𝐿, which is a device and a program for dementia patients. And it taps on the memory of the body by proposing to recall souvenirs of gesture from daily life, like pouring tea or grinding spice. Actually, the device has a motion sensor that activates the video of the original gesture. And this was developed with a nursing home. And it also won many awards. And we hope to implement this program in a more larger scale soon. The social dimension can be also something very light in a way. And this child book, 𝐿𝐴𝐻𝐼𝐻, that Isabella just mentioned, is made to tell a story with light and shadows before to go to bed. It's the story of a family, which is a very important topic in Singapore, a family who welcomes a baby, and that child will grow up, will learn to read in between the lines, and will always have the family around to support. This product is fully made in Singapore, which is a kind of performance. And yeah, as Isabella said, it also won the Bronze DFA Award, and by the way, many other awards around the world. I will finish with environment because we try to push more in this direction, and we developed some collaborations here, for example, with NTUC First Campus in Singapore on the topic of the future of playground, to understand how to better connect children with nature in a tropical context. For example, by playing with the sun, but also the rain, because in Singapore, as maybe Hong Kong, the weather is changing very fast. Or discovering the treasures of the local flora and the many heritage trees that are all around Singapore. And we are also preparing an exhibition for the next Paris Design Week, where we will share a vision of nature through design from a tropical perspective. And all the projects will present a dialogue with Singapore local species, like, for example, this one, playing with the geckos, with this light that attracts mosquitoes and give them to the geckos as a feast, and that makes at the end a live artwork on the wall. Or this horn for cicadas that helps to protect the cicadas from the noise pollution by attracting them thanks to the heat, like a chimney, in order to amplify their song and to send it to the next tree around. And let me say a word about the Aline chair that won the Silver DFA Award. This project was commissioned by our university, to be the outdoor furniture of the first net zero energy building in Singapore. This building welcomes our School of Design and also the Design Incubation Center where I'm right now. And it's a very, very inspiring environment, as you can imagine. So to focus on this goal of sustainability, we have chosen to work with recycled aluminum and also to reduce the manufacturing complexity by working only with existing diameters of pipes and, of course, durable finishing. And personally, coming from a design school in France, where the students sit every day on 𝐵𝐻𝐻 or Jacobsen furniture just to inspire them, because that's the project, I can say that I'm very proud when I see our students adopting and playing every day with these chairs. Actually, yeah, those photos are from students, and they are really part of their daily life, and it also became a kind of signature chair for our school. And actually, we are currently working to expand the project, and I hope that this DFA award will help us maybe to license the collection with local or why not overseas companies. So many thanks to bring light on our work with this award, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Christophe. That was some really, really amazing work. Can I just ask a quick question before we move on? Tell us a little bit about your students at the centre. Are they mainly from Singapore, or are they international students as well, or are they just?
They are mainly from Singapore. Actually, the Design Incubation Center is a kind of satellite of the division of industrial design, where I'm teaching, of course. Yeah, that are mainly from Singapore. We have other students from all around Southeast Asia, and sometimes some exchange students as well. But yeah, they are mainly from here. And yeah, that's interesting with them because obviously I'm not Singaporean. I'm coming from France, and I can see a very different mindset here, and
yes.
A way to really believe in the future, where in France we can maybe be a bit pessimistic. So that's yeah, interesting to
that's what I was trying to say at the beginning, but you've got to be very careful. But but also for you coming from the West to Asia, do you see? I think you see things differently to people there. We certainly see. When we came to Japan, we see things that Japanese people don't see, although we're looking at the same thing. And I think that's quite interesting too.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Let's say that maybe here in Singapore, design is more considered as problem solving.
Yes.
So students are very trained for that, where maybe from my French background, we try to see from different angles, and also to bring a dimension of philosophy in everything we were doing, to maybe consider the big picture, and to consider that everything we can bring as a solution, as an innovation, can be a problem also later.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah.
I've got one more minute with you. So yeah, just similar to us when we first came to Japan. I come from the British School of Design, the Richard Rogers and Norman Foster School of Architecture, which is very straight line. At the beginning, you have a target and a vision, and you have to follow that in a straight line. And in Japan, we worked with Toyo Ito when we first arrived here, and in his office, it was really like a cloud of ideas. And it seemed to be that I thought that they seemed to be very confused, but they explored all these different things. And then at the end, this droplet, this essence of the idea appeared. It was a completely different way to design, and it's super interesting. So, Christophe, thank you very much, and we'll look forward to talking to you a little bit later. And now I'm going to hand over to Colin, and I'm really keen to hear about your project. So I think you've got about 10 minutes to let us know about what you've been working on. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Great. Yeah, it's a real privilege. Thank you so much to the organizers for allowing us this platform to share. This project's really close to our heart. So when it won the Gold Award, we were very pleased because I think it stands for a certain zeitgeist that we would like to study, not just in this project, but in our work as well. So let me begin. The project's called the Citi Wealth Hub. So it's for the Citibank client. It was a competition that we won. And I think we were the dark horse. We had never worked on a banking project, retail side before. So when we started this project, I think we wanted to question three things. And QDR there stands for question, disturb, and redefine. That's the ethos of Ministry of Design. And when we approach every project, we ask, what essentially can we relook? How can we overturn convention and establish a new way of seeing? So for this project, we were asking ourselves three questions in particular. The first was, what really is the nature of luxury today? Is the chandelier and marble material ostentatious consumption aspect of it, is that something that is relevant today? The second was, the site was very, very specific. When we went there, the main space, it's a 4-story project. The main space, however, is really anchored by this atrium with a glass ceiling and glass walls, double height space, and not necessarily the easiest space to use, and we were wanting to respond to it quickly. And then the last was, the project was not just for the high net worth clientele for Citibank, but it was also for all the relationship managers and all the back of house staff that supported this. And it was almost 50-50, the division of front of house versus back of house space. And we wanted to ask ourselves, in most scenarios, the back of house space is dingy, it's fluorescent lit, it's kind of forgotten. And just by the way, could we bridge that gap and create this wonderful sort of utopian environment for both the people with the money and the people supporting this entire operation? We didn't want to make it so different for the two. So let me just plunge into the project. I'm going to sort of walk us through it really quickly. It's along Orchard Road, which is one of the main shopping streets in Singapore, one of the most famous streets in Singapore, actually. And it's right beside the Apple Store. It's this sort of really sophisticated glass building that steps away from the road, designed by Raymond Wu, a local architect. And you can see here the Citibank project on the upper floors. We wanted to create this sense of progression through the space, not to reveal the whole straight away. You step out from the lift, there's this kind of private lobby area where the concierge greets you. This is the Citi Gold Center, which is where the high net worth individuals have their retail facility. Above this is the Citi Gold private client center, where it's the ultra high net worth. So there are two stratums of customers who use this space. So you come through, and then you will sort of pass this meandering walkway, and then you enter into this like gorgeous landscape space. And for us, the notion of contemporary luxury, we wanted to find a new symbol, and we found that greenery, botanics was a very, very appropriate symbol, because it was all about sustainability, it was about balance, it was about harmony, it was about the generation of wealth in a way that was responsible, no longer something that you wielded without thought for others or thought for the environment, something that you grew in a sustainable way. So we thought this was a really beautiful symbol for wealth today and luxury today. And we took these kind of almost primal looking, very tropical, lush, botanical array, working together with ICN, the landscape architect in Singapore, to put them in these man-made fluid gold or champagne plated planters. So sort of balancing nature and sort of the mark of the hand. And in this garden, we nestled these meeting pods where you could have private meetings amidst the garden setting. And day changing to night, the environment is quite different. There are often events in the Wealth Hub for the clientele after the normal banking hours have ended. There may be sort of events where new products would be introduced, or there'd be wine tasting sessions. So the whole environment also had to have this duality about it. And we introduced, instead of sort of the tucked behind closed doors, a servery where a server would bring you tea, we put into the middle of this space an island bar where it became a lot more active. Customers were drawn to this immediately, where you could just have a chat with the bartender as well. And all of this sits on one level, and above it, the is another level where the 𝐶𝐞𝐤 private client retail experience happens. And in a way, one over the other also symbolically represents the different stratas for the bank's retail clients. And so on the upper level, the experience is similar, but a little bit more bespoke, a little bit more intimate, a little bit more dark and dramatic. Similarly, you are greeted at the lift lobby at a concierge point, and you come around the corner, and then you're introduced into a garden setting, but this time a lot more intimate. You sit in just pairs or fours. There's also a bar where the service is a little bit more bespoke. They would walk up to you and serve you something while you're seated. And then we had this thing called the envy corner, where you would stand as if at the bow of a boat and look down onto the garden, surveying the garden, but also surveying the people who maybe you were once there and now you're up here. So it's a aspirational understanding the psychology of a client who wants to aspire from one stage to become more successful and reach the next. Some images of the waiting areas, a series of corridor spaces to a host of more conventional meeting rooms to support the garden meeting rooms, and the palette of materials very sort of carefully selected. The design brief touched every single space, including the bathrooms. Then now we transition, and you may not even notice it if I didn't mention it, but now we're transitioning to the office space where we have back of house spaces. So we brought the botanical touches in. We worked with a very sort of controlled budget to create an environment that would approximate the feeling and the attitude of the front of house space. There's an open office plan. Relationship managers could choose to sit in different places. They may also work from home. So when they did come to work into the office, they would sit in these areas. So because we're all designers, I thought instead of just introducing the project, I'll also talk about some challenges in the last few minutes. And the three challenges that we faced were, the first was creating the pods and the planters that have become sort of the iconic image for the project. And there was a huge complexity of the manufacturing for these pods and planters. The planters were of varying shapes. They don't only turn in plan, they're also swooping in elevation. So it's a more complex curve. And we worked so hard at creating the most minimal number of modules. So we would repeat modules. And also, if you notice within the planters, every single pot is also designed so that it's easily replaced should there be a need to replace the plants. The pods themselves are little pieces of architecture. They're fully equipped with air conditioning system. They're acoustically controlled. There's a fire suppression system and a fire detection system. And it was incredibly difficult also structurally to create this because we couldn't have any foundation. So this had to be fairly self-supporting, almost like a tent, but it was also very rigid. And so it was quite a task to finalize the design for this. But when it was done, it really was the icing on the cake for the entire project, because meeting in one of these pods amidst the garden is a completely sort of paradigm shifting experience when it comes to the typical retail banking situation. So here you see the planters that I talked about, and also the pot shapes. They vary in height, vary in shape, and there's a huge amount of calculation that went into making sure all of these worked. The botanicals, working with very gifted landscape architects, ICN, to decide every single species, to decide the humidity of the space, where there's a balance between what's good for humans versus what's good for plants, to decide how these plants would be grown. They're all hydroponic as opposed to in soil, doing site mock-ups to understand how the heights would work in the space. And then lastly, crazy as it may be, the project was awarded during the height of the COVID pandemic, and the contractors, a local very esteemed firm called GrandWorks, was able to execute this in an amazing fast-track time frame and very little substitution to materials, and delivered this project on time, in spite of all the shipping delays, in spite of the workforce delays. We lost manpower because of this pandemic. And also there were also staggered working time. So it's really quite an amazing project to have sort of seen the light of day. And as a result, you know, so many people involved, from the contractors to the suppliers, and also to our own MOD team. Thank you so much.
Great, Colin. When we're bang on time. That was really a lovely presentation, and I really like that little bit at the end of all the challenges. So we're going to kick off our sort of panel discussion right now. So I'm intrigued with this notion of design for Asia, yeah, and what that actually means. And I think if we say design for America or design for Europe, it doesn't sort of conjure up any images. It doesn't do anything. It's almost like going backwards in time. You think of 1950s design for America, and design for Europe probably means something to each of us. But design for Asia does sort of push us forward, like we were talking about before. And so, Christophe, do you think your students' designs, do you think these would have come about if they were in Europe? Do you think that sensibility has really driven design in a different way?
Probably not, because here, as I said, we have different cultures that are really mixed, and that makes something very interesting, something we cannot see in Europe, because in between different cultures in Europe, we tend to fight and to isolate ourselves, but they learn how to work together and to put everything together, so that there is a kind of tolerance like this. But there is maybe something very specific in Singapore, is maybe because it's a very young country, maybe the quest of the definition of a local culture. What is the Singapore culture? What is the Singapore signature? And obviously, seen from far, we cannot say that it's an Asian signature, because in Asia, we have also many different cultures. So that there is a bit of different roots that are known as the Peranakan culture in the history of Singapore, this wonderful mix of different things put together. That could produce a mess, actually, but with time and with the decantation of everything, I think it's something that will be very, very strong. So, of course, yeah, the students are not fully aware of this, but I see how step by step they contribute, how they aggregate things coming from far also, because that's a fact. In Singapore, everything is imported. Most of the things are imported, from food to products, and including teaching, because we are a lot of foreign profs to contribute. Right. So that generates something like a really interesting melting pot. Right. That will be a beginning of signature for this part of Southeast Asia. Yeah.
Yeah, and the same really question to you, Colin. I mean, Citibank is an American firm with an international spread, really. Do you think, you know, this would have been possible outside of Asia, what you've designed?
You know, it's an interesting question, and it also ties into the greater question of whether, as designers in Asia, we perceive ourselves as Asian designers. Right. I think, you know, for you, Mark and Christophe, I think you have had to be quite conscious about this question of identity, because you find yourself in a foreign land, and I think the foreignness of a place always calls into question the identity of who you are. Whereas as Singaporeans, I think one thing unique that sets us apart, perhaps from the Japanese, the Thais, the Indonesians, is that we have been very much a nation of fluidity in terms of trade. And I use the word trade not so much in terms of just things that you can touch and feel, but the spirit of trade, as in the exchange of things. And from the beginning of our founding till today, I think we have evolved, right? But the essence of the exchange of ideas, from goods now services and then now ideas has always been one of the defining factors of what has made Singapore what it is. And it's exchange between East and West, it's the exchange between old and new, it's exchange between convention and innovation. And I think that the Citi project is a great example of that, because it's neither Western nor Asian per se. Neither, I mean, elements of it, like the botanical usage is incredibly primal, but the way it's used is incredibly new. So I think it embodies, in a way, a very Singaporean aspect of being able to fluidly blend things.
Yeah, no, that's a good answer. I mean, when I first saw the project, I wasn't sure whether it was in New York or in Singapore or Asia. There was a duality to it, which is really, really nice. And I think...
And just to add to that, Mark, the fact that I think it was born, this was a project that the Citi H quarters initiated and then was run very much by the Singaporean counterparts. But I think there was a very much an upstream desire to see something completely new. And the way, it's not just how it looks, but it's the way it processes the retail experience, which is completely different. There's no evidence of your typical high-end banking trademarks that you would find in any
that's one of the questions I had. So was that difficult to persuade the client in this new direction that you're going with? It was certainly with high net worth individuals and ultra high net worth individuals. I never heard that term before. Anyway, I just wonder, because there are standard things. If you're in the yachting industry and you're designing a multi-billion-dollar yacht, it looks fantastic from the outside, and then on the inside, it's all chintzy and dreadful. You know, from pictures I've seen. Anyway, I just wondered if there were any conflicts there or.
That's a fantastic question, Mark, and you're so right to ask it, because with projects like this and with clienteles like this, there's a lot of baggage typically, isn't there? Right? Exactly. You know, there's a lot at stake. But what was incredibly refreshing, and this one is 100% credit to the client, they started this whole competition truly to find the best idea and the freshest and most innovative idea. That's not always the case for competitions. Sometimes competitions is just a cheap way to get an idea. But this one was really a search for something quite extraordinary. And when we were invited, we knew we were the dark horse. And when the idea for this sort of banking in a garden, banking in a conservatory, came about like a eureka moment for the team. And when we sat down and said, should we even propose this? Because it's so kind of bizarre and will require a whole new way of thinking about it. We said, we have nothing to lose, let's try. And the fact that the client warmed up to it immediately and accepted it was something, fully to their credit.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to go back to Christophe. I'm interested, Christophe, with your projects that you show, because they were also sort of intangible as well, about taste and about light and shadows. You're making things from nothing. And I thought that was really interesting. And just like it's not flapping around behind you, but your curtain was blowing in the wind and was looking very, very cooling behind you. But could you talk a little bit more about that, about designing things from nothing?
Maybe that's somewhere probably the result of my teaching coming from France, bringing maybe a little dimension of poetry to the projects, but more deeply, I think that this generation of students start to have a quest for meaning in what they are doing. Because they always question how to have an impact in what they are doing and what design is useful for. So that can be at very different levels. But to have this dimension of sensibility into the objects and to not just produce for producing. Is maybe something that comes more from Europe. Why to do one more object? in a place like Singapore where we don't produce objects mainly.
Yes.
So if we do something that must have a reason for being, and this reason for being can be cultural, can be economical also, of course. And some of our students, like 𝐿𝐶𝐤𝐿, who did the Shine book, has really did this dimension of poetry in everything she's doing, and she was really great to elaborate this story that is something we can read when we have 3 years old and also 80 years old, and transmit this to the grandchildren, and it's very universal at the same time. So it really makes sense here in Singapore, and at the same time, it's something very universal.
Yeah,
and that comes back to this question of Asian design. I don't know if we can stamp it as Asian design. Maybe in the generosity to make something for all, maybe to welcome all the culture to use the same thing and to have the same words to describe some very simple and at the same time very deep feelings.
Yeah, and there's the very famous book in Japan in praise of shadows. Yeah, and again, just talking about that darkness, that's something you wouldn't talk about in the UK. Yeah, that would not be an area that you would touch on. So I was interested in that. There's a question for you in the chat, and it's asking, where do you see the future of design education going? It's a little change of gear here, but what's your thoughts on that? Being in such a fantastic, I was just looking online at your incubation center. It looks amazing. So just where you see that future of design going?
The future of design education is probably on different ways, because what we have to do as design teacher is to not to teach what we know to the students, because we know things from the past. We need to train them to invent the future, to probably adapt to very big changes, to anticipate, and to try to contribute to a better world. And in one way, I'm trying to do this, among many others, is to let this population of students to understand that the artistic dimension is maybe something very important, because it's a way to develop a philosophy and to see the world, to define a position in this world, and to develop also a vision of that world where we want to go or not. So that's mainly what I try to do, to bring them this ability to make a step aside, to think in a different way, to not take the question and try to simply answer it, but to see to look at the big picture and to understand where the problems are coming from, and try to find other opportunities to not answer, but to make new propositions to go on the right way.
So Colin, I've got go on.
To add a quick note, and I completely agree with Christophe. And I was at the industrial design studio the other month for a crit session with one of your tutors, and I also spent weekly sessions at the architecture department, which is just neighboring yours. And I think one thing I picked up on is Asia, there's this tendency to fear failure, and so that really sort of diminishes the ability to take risk and ask questions which need to be asked. So I think perhaps one thing that we can do as educators and also as practitioners is to model how, not so much intentional failure, but to model the ability to accept as part of the process some amount of failure because there's a risk taken.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you look at NASA and SpaceX, how they develop the rocket. Well, there's NASA spends years and years and years and years, and then it takes off in one go and it's perfect. And there's SpaceX, that's actually built on failure, but they can iterate quicker, because of the failure. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, Colin, a sort of a future question too. Where do you see the future of the office, and where do you see the future of the office, especially in Singapore? We're seeing a big change here in Japan in sort of life-work balance and how people spend more time at home. But here,
Yes.
you know, you can actually get out of the city more, and maybe you can have what's called a besso, a weekend home, and spend 4 days there.
Yeah.
It's very tough in Singapore to have a second home.
I envy you that, Mark. I envy you that, and you're absolutely right. In fact, to answer this question, I'll put my money where my mouth is. When this pandemic happened, we felt very landlocked in Singapore and cabin fever, and so we initiated something called, for our firm, we're Ministry of Design, so that's MOD. We initiated this thing called MOD 2.0, where we said to our staff and colleagues, if you're going to be landlocked, then, or you're going to be locked in your home, then don't be locked in your home in Singapore necessarily. So we opened the gates to people working from anywhere in the region, so they could relocate.
Oh,
wow. And of course, working
amazing.
Singapore time. Yeah. And so now a few of our colleagues have done that. We've also allowed consideration for people to work abroad for longer stints of time, so they can spend the work week working and then weekends having fun, but in Sydney, Australia, or in Tokyo, or wherever their hearts may take them. So the notion of work-life balance is now, like what you said, it's life-work balance, where your work fits into your life rather than. The pandemic has taught us that, you know, your life cannot be around work, but it must be a part of your entire existence.
Yeah. Christopher, what was your sort of experiences, or what were the upsides of the pandemic for you? Because everybody talks about the downsides, but I only see positive things coming out of it.
Let's say the positive thing is that a lot of people realize that online teaching is not the future of teaching. Because we need to be together, we need to share things that true. We cannot share through a screen. Because we are in a relationship from human to human. We are working from the guts, and we try to identify things very deep in the students to really to reveal their talent. And through screen, we are very efficient. We can focus very short time on very important questions. But to take the time of the discussion and to understand better the people, we need to be face to face. So that there was this kind of fantasy, I think, in teaching to have full online courses even before the pandemic. But maybe that's the positive thing. The worst can reveal the need for the best.
I found that for teaching, it wasn't only the fact that the tutor or the teacher and the students were having this video relationship, which was perhaps okay, but for architecture, the studio environment was missing. So if the students couldn't be together working as a cohort, not just in their studio of 12, but in their cohort of 200, then their learning absorption rate from all these other peripheral influences diminishes so much, right? And so that was what I found was most lacking. Not just the Zoom lessons, but the studio environment itself. And this kind of in answering Mark's earlier question about the future of the office, I think it varies from setup to setup and industry to industry. Don't think there's a one-size-fits-all solution. I think there'll be a whole bunch of hybrids, but what it's allowed employers to do is to rethink this whole paradigm of the physical workplace
or other spaces. We've just finished a couple of co-working spaces here, one I use quite a lot now. The thing that's changed co-working space for me is new laptops with much longer battery life. There was always this fear, I've got to take my power brick, and I hadn't got my cable, and now with my new MacBook Air, it runs for 19 hours, and it's freed me, like it's freed me when the telephone went from a cable telephone to a mobile. It really does. It does change the way you think. So anyway, I think we're
hardware and software as well. So
it is, but I think that where I work, there is a coffee shop, and then above it, there's a place where you actually have to pay to sit down and work. And you realize now that you can't sit in a coffee shop anymore and in a Starbucks and work. You do need to go to one of these shared spaces, and then you've got your base somewhere else. And these things, and again, COVID's kind of driven that too. So it's kind of exciting.
Yes.
I had lots of more questions for you both, but then maybe there's one more question. Hold on just one second. So this is to both of you. We'll end on this one. And I haven't read it yet, so I'm going to read it out. Both of your awarded projects are related to sustainable design. Besides using environmental friendly materials, greenery features, how do you think designers could influence the public to live a more sustainable lifestyle? How are you going to influence the world? Is the question. What can you do? So you've got a minute each to tell me what your views are.
I will say something that is maybe paradoxal, but we have to produce less, so we have to design less things. That is paradoxal because I just came with a new chair on the market, but we did it just because it was not possible in the administrative context of the university to buy and to make a call of tender and to buy a chair. So we had a budget to design this chair and to make a series. But obviously, my first reflex would have been to not add one more product to the market, of course. Yeah, but if we do it, we have to do it the right way. Just this. And the right way is in terms of design, in terms of fabrication, in terms of durability as well.
Yes, I think so. I think if things are designed to last, and so things like knockoffs, copies, cheap imitations, those are completely disastrous, not just for the design industry, but also for the sustainability of our planet, right? Because those things don't last, and you use them for 2 years and you have to chuck them because they break down. Whereas if you buy something that's made well, then you use it for a long time. And same with spaces. I think for us, not just product-based, but also for environments, we need to design things which are not so much timeless in a minimalist sense of an aesthetic, but timeless in terms of its spirit. Things we've designed, I look back and some of the things we've designed are still relevant today does not need change and constant updating. I think that's very important.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just emptying out my mother's home, and found her Kenwood mixer. It lasted for 50 years. The one that mixes the bread or whatever, but it cost a lot of money when they bought it, but it lasted 50 years. And you think about electronic products today lasting that length of time, but those things are expensive. Again, our Herman Miller chairs here, they're 30 years old, and they're going to last another 30 years. That's I think the way we have to think. But that's again about economics, and can you get a loan to buy the things? It's kind of funny here. With I'm also one of the founders of Design Art, which is the design week in Tokyo, and we work with a bank here to give young people loans to buy good furniture. Brilliant. So which will last, but we do it on over a 10 to 10 year period, expecting the furniture is going to last at least 30.
But it's the mindset, because the irony, right, Mark, is that a lot of our clients who have the money don't buy the things that last. It's not so. It's not so much whether they can or can't, but they won't.
Yes,
because there's this kind of So that's interesting.
Anyway, on that point, I want to thank you both for a really interesting discussion and also the interesting questions from the audience there. So I think we're going to go back to Isabella now. Is that correct?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm back.
I hope that was okay. It was really interesting for me. It was a really great discussion, and we touched on some really important points as well.
Thank you so much, Mark, Christophe, and Colin, for your valuable sharing. I'm sure we have gained a lot of inspiration from today's dialogue. There are still 3 more design dialogue upcoming. Please follow our website and social media platform for further details. These events would also be live broadcast on YouTube channel. Please subscribe DFA Awards channel and follow our latest online events. Just a warm reminder, the deadline for DFA Design for Asia Awards 2022 submission is on June 30th. The end of this month. please catch the time. And we also Young Design Talent Award 2022 also open for submission till 28th of June this month. If you are interested in joining our awards, please do not hesitate to apply. That's the end of today's design dialogue. If you are interested in any events of DFA Awards, please follow our website and social media platform. Thank you for watching, and we wish you soon again in the dialogue next week. Bye-bye.
All right.